All right. So, kind of an odd thing happened just recently. Um, After trashing pattern betting by describing it as so bad that it's embarrassing, basically suggesting that any kind of progressive betting strategy is just stupid. What did he say? This is so bad, it's embarrassing. Casino matchmaker, a guy named Greg, a fellow Brit, who he calls himself Casino Matchmaker. I've come to think of him as Casino Match Faker because he keeps promoting really, really dubious roulette strategies which have no chance against the house advantage on single zero roulette of about minus 2.7%. Anyway, just to sort of like get down to the nitty gritty here, he trashed pattern betting and then suddenly has come up with a huge endorsement for a very very old strategy called Oscar's grind. And Oscar's grind is a it's a kind of an old favorite dating back to pre-calculator days. Some little old guy called Oscar, according to legend, used to keep a stubby pencil and a little tiny notebook, and he played craps day after day, hour after hour, just round the clock, all year long. And he kept a record of every single roll. And he devised this strategy whereby what you do is that if you lose, then you freeze your bet, and if you win, you increase your bet by 1 unit. And you keep on increasing your bet after a win by 1 unit and freezing after a loss until you finally come out at the end of the skirmish or series or sequence or whatever, until you come out with a profit of 1 unit, and then you start over. You drop your bet back from whatever it might be to 1 unit, and it's a lousy strategy, primarily because exactly like the martingale, which is certainly a lot more dangerous than Oscar's grind, but exactly like the martingale, Oscar's grind delivers only a 1 unit profit after what can be an extremely extended battle. And it's basically crap. But I just thought, okay, so because I'm a fair-minded fellow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Baccarat Win Pro current sample, which is about 125,000 rounds, cut it down to 10,000, and then compare pattern betting with the hop and with all its other little bells and whistles with what Casino Matchmaker describes as one of his favorite strategies, super effective, great way to play Baccarat, good thing to do against a game which is basically a coin toss 50-50, which is what Baccarat is, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with any of that. I mean, he can say what he wants. He's got his channel. It's a free country. He can come out. He can spout all kinds of nonsense if he wishes, but he is saying that Oscar's grind is a great way to go. So I've got this thing that you see in front of you right now, which is how pattern betting did, and it comes out at about £1,600 an hour and a 10.2% win of total action. Action averages out at £204 per bet, which is high, no doubt about that. It also has a low point of a worst case scenario, if you like. That's what WCS means up here, of 152,000 and worse. The bankroll at one point was down. It was exposed £34,000. That'd be here, right? various other threats, not that many really. This is the worst case scenario here, where it drops down to from 165,000 a head to only 13,000 a head, hence this number up here. And then it rebounds. So in total, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 very serious threats to the bankroll, but pattern betting, as it usually does, comes out alive, and isn't that wonderful? Okay, so now let's have a look at Mr. Matchfaker's alternative. It definitely does come out with a profit. Average bet is £71. The win is £5,000 compared to 209,000. The win is less than 1% of total action, whereas with pattern betting, it's 10.2%. What else are we looking at here? Most of these, with Oscar's grind, with casino matchmakers, Oscar's grind thing, most of these instructions up here do not apply because it's a very simple strategy. It can be explained here. After a turnaround, you drop back to the minimum bet. If there's a loss, or even a win, if it's an opening win in a new series, you stay with the previous, or if it's a push, you stay with the previous bet value. If there's a win and you're still in the hole, Alexa, stop. You add 1 unit. That's J8 plus N5, or the loss value plus 1 unit, and otherwise, what the fuck? That's what that's about. So most of this does not apply up here. What you will see is that the average turnaround is 13 bets, whereas for pattern betting, the average turnaround is less than half that, 5.6 bets. Turnaround certainly does potentially get into greater trouble, but it does it does so much better. I mean, just think about it. I mean, 10% of your total action, as opposed to Greg's 0.7%. I mean, come on. And also, of course, there is a worst case scenario here. He has about as many nasties as pattern betting, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 this one is the worst. It goes down 7,500 from 10,330 ahead. So that's the worst case scenario here, and that's it right here. And you can see that in spite of a whole load of really promising wins, all that we do is increase the bet by 1 unit, 1 unit, 1 unit. I mean, this is just nonsense, absolute silliness. But it's one of his favourites. You got to understand the thing about Greg is he was in the casino industry. He says often on his videos for 10 years. And the way that he's pitching, he concentrates mostly on roulette, but he strays off into blackjack and baccarat every so often. I don't think I've ever seen him do any other games, but then I don't pay too much attention to him because I find him a little bit kind of frustrating to deal with because he's talking absolute rubbish, beautifully illustrated, beautifully presented, but absolute nonsense. But there you are. Like I say, free country, he can say and do what he wants. But it's just, I mean, make your own comparison. Boink, 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 boink. I just, I don't see any point in this really, but I've done it because Greg made a very special point of saying that pattern betting was so bad it's embarrassing, and then he started promoting a strategy which is so much badder and so much more embarrassing that he's basically exposed himself as a complete hypocrite. But he's been doing that for a long time, and what I actually believe about Greg is that he's still in the casino business, but he's instead of working inside and dealing tables and spinning wheels and all the rest of it, now he's outside the door with a sandwich board, saying roll up, try your luck, have fun losing, blah 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 blah. So there you are. Anyway, a little thing that I need to fix right here. Just to copy this over so that I don't get those nasties down there. There we are. That's fixed. All it was that it was showing that these two things are both zero, and so you can't calculate which is the most, which is the highest value out of the two. Just for analysis sake, what we're looking at here is isolated wins. There were 2,488 of those and 2,518 isolated losses. So you're looking at something that's about the same. There were 1,256 double wins, twins, and 1,266 twin losses. So that's about the same. And then you get to 3 wins in a row, and what happens is that you're looking at slightly fewer triple loss, and then things start to go wrong. You see 293 4 bets in a row and 313 4 losses in a row, and then 153, 163, and then 80, 71. Mostly as soon as you get into the nasties, the house advantage kicks in and really hurts you. So that's what that's about. So there you have it. Make your own judgment. Obviously, that's what I always say. It's up to you, not up to me. I mean, I certainly have my opinions, and I have my experience, and all I'm trying to do is just say to as many people as possible, ignore the touts, the shills, the fairground barkers like Casino Match Faker and Vegas Matt and Mr. Handpay and Brandon O'Brien and all the others, the so-called professional gamblers on YouTube. Ignore them all, because if you don't have a betting strategy which is non-random, and if you don't have a shitload of money behind you, then you can't afford to win, because before you get to win, you will encounter variance, as some people like to call it. Turbulence is, I think, a much better word for it. Was it somebody else said vicissitudes, whatever. You're going to encounter something which will just knock you out of the game, because you'll run out of money before your luck comes back. And luck, of course, is something that works for both sides equally, so that sometimes the house will get a run and sometimes a player will get a run. The big difference between the player and the house is that the house has infinite chips, whereas the player has a limited number of chips. And so if the player hits a run, the house can afford to wait him out until his luck runs out. The house, in other words, can afford to win. That's the difference. So there you have it. I'll catch you later. All right, so what I've done now is just to add a little bit of a wrinkle to this whole test of Casino Match Faker's favorite Baccarat strategy. I've built in a random number generator which is set at minus 1.3%, which is about the house advantage for Baccarat, and we can then compare, because the two files are now linked so that when the random number generator changes here, it also changes for the Oscars grind casino matchmaker formula. So I'm struggling a bit here because it's a heavy duty file, a bit beyond the capabilities, not beyond the capabilities, but stretching the capabilities of my bog standard cheapo computer. Now, let me be absolutely clear about something here, and that is that things do not always come out well for pattern betting with a random number generator, simply because the random number generator is not the game. The game is beatable, the game of baccarat and the game of blackjack and so on, because then each individual round is not plucked out of the ether. So what you sometimes get is you'll get, like here, you've got a 12.7% win of action, and the direct comparison with Oscar's grind is a loss of 1.3%. So you've got that, right? Now if I do another one, I'll press the recalc. Okay, and you'll see a loss for pattern betting, and a loss for both strategies, basically. I mean, one loses 0.9% and the other one loses, my way loses 0.5%, and Greg's way loses 0.9%. Let's try that again. That's a terrible loss for pattern betting. Less of a loss for Greg. This is all part of the process of just testing the difference between the two strategies. And here you have a win of 0.5% for Greg and 3.2% for pattern betting. I mean, in a way, I'm sort of shooting myself in the foot by doing the random number thing, but it just seemed to me like a fair test. And as always, I mean, you guys make your own judgment. I mean, there you got a 2% win against a 9.4% win. Do it again. I think you've probably got the picture by now. 11.3%. I mean, mostly pattern betting will kick ass because that's what it does. I mean, that's what it's for. And it has taken a long time to develop. So, it's not like, I mean, what Greg is doing is he's going back into history and he's digging out a progressive betting strategy, which is simplistic, not as dangerous as the martingale, which can be incredibly effective, but is hazardous in the extreme. What you'll notice is that every time pattern betting wins here, the average turnaround, the average OK, that's the number up here, is around 5.3%. It's somewhere between 5 and 6%. Let's say 5.5%. Greg's method, Greg's favorite proven method is always around double that. Let's have a look, see what we get here. I'll do it again from here this time so that you can see what we're talking about. Okay, it's 3.3%. Did all right there, didn't you, Greg? Wow, that's not bad. 11.4% over on the pattern betting side, and Greg's and 5.3 average OK, and 3.3% for Greg, and 11.5 average OK. Let's do it the other way around this time. Okay, 11.4% over here, and as you can see, the numbers that matter, the ones here, in column F, are the same. because there's a link. So I've got the two linked. So there you see 11.4% win, 5.3 average OK, loss of 1%, 16.9 average OK. Just look at the difference in the charts. Greg's favorite proven effective method is a mess. Not quite sure why it's still showing a profit. It shouldn't be. I don't know. Let's have a look at this chart and see what's going on here, because it should be set to 10,000 and maybe I fucked up. Yeah, 10,007. That really shouldn't be showing any kind of a profit. That's something to do with Excel, I think. Don't worry about that. I guess 54,000 in the grand scheme, minus 54,000 is not. Why is it doing that? And that's a good question. And it's showing 11,690 there. Do not know why. Well, that's a mystification for me to study, but I promise you the numbers are fair. And we go down to the bottom here, and you can see there are 10,000 rounds, and it's telling you at the top that it's 10,000 rounds. And basically, you've got in Greg's favorite, you've got crap, and in pattern betting, you've got something that really works. So, but as I always say, your call. And now we got 14.5% for me. And how did Greg do? 0.1%. I mean, what else can I tell you?